Welcome back. You're listening to Chat with Women, and I'm Pam.
And I'm Rochelle.
And we are chatting this morning with Lorraine Howell, who is the author of Give Your Elevator Speech a Lift, second edition. And her company is Media Skills Training. And when we were at break, we were talking about, I think this is important, how do we use all of this? Now, I'm out there, and I'm looking for a job, which is, we know, 10% unemployment right now at least. There's a lot of people looking for work. How can they use this elevator speech instead of as a company, as my own personal brand, to get a job?
Well, it's really when you're in a job interview, you're really using the elements of the elevator speech. I think when you go through the process and understand what value you bring to a prospective employer, that's the value of going through this elevator speech process. There's something else that I've included in this new edition. It's something that I learned years ago when I was laid off in the television industry. And so I thank the California State Employment Resources because they taught me a very easy and quick formula that I share with people. It's called PAR. It's a way to tell stories about yourself in a way where you're not bragging, but you're just confidently saying, P stands for the problem, A stands for the action, and R stands for the results. So you can say to a prospective employer, this was the problem, this is what my team and I did about it, and these were the results. So in 3 seconds, you can tell a story about what you've accomplished. This even works for people who are just coming out of college. That's the Cornell connection, because when they were using my book, the original edition, they said it would be great if we had something for people who were just starting out. So I was able to include some things for people who are in the job market for the very first time. So it's really expanding on your elevator speech. That's your opener. And then you talk about when you're in the conversation talking to a prospective employer, here's what I can do for you. So it's a way to communicate your value to anyone who wants to know.
Well, and then they always ask you, what are you proud of? What have you accomplished in your last job? It allows you to figure these things out, which is very good.
Well, I'm going to say this is really important. I used to interview all the time, and I'll tell you, if you would tell me a story, I'm much more apt to listen. Then otherwise, I'm looking at papers on my desk. I'm thinking I have 18 more interviews, and I can't even remember who you are by the time you left. I used to write down red hair. I'm not kidding you, because it was the same questions and I didn't get the stories. So what you just said is extremely powerful, because if I had that, I would remember the person, because now they told me a story.
And I recommend that you go through your life, your experience, your work experience, even your volunteer activities or your student projects, and look at what was the problem, what was the action that you took, and what were the results. And you can create PARs, PARs, for just about anything, so that you have a whole toolkit when you go into an interview. And then you're not worried so much about, do they like me? Do they like me? You really want to say, is this a good fit for me?
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's good.
Absolutely. I'm not going to, I want to know this. I want to know what I need to do. And you just gave me PAR. That's like the biggest aha. And we say on this show, if we can at least gain one pearl of wisdom and have some fun, we've done both this morning. Right. So that's really important.
Yeah. And stories, as you pointed out. And that's the same thing with your elevator speech when you're out there networking. Think of the stories, because people don't remember. We're all in information overload.
Exactly.
We're all channel surfing in our brains now because there's just so much information out of there. And so as a speaker or when you're networking, the goal is to get people to stay with you and not change channels so quickly.
Well, let's talk now a little bit. Okay, personal branding. We know what we need to do. Let's talk about social media.
Social media has changed.
It's really big.
It really is, and particularly, it's changed media in the first place in terms of who's now considered media. I mean, we just have to look at the WikiLeaks.
Yes.
When you look at what's been happening just in the news in the last few days, the web has just changed the news business tremendously. But the other thing it's changed is the job hunting process. Employers are now looking at things like Facebook and YouTube and Twitter, blogs,
Twitter.
All of those. They're looking to see what people are doing online, because you may go into an interview and just be exactly everything that that they want. But if you're out there doing some what might be considered risque behavior, photos or like drinking parties, that sort of thing,
Right.
employers are likely to say, I don't know if this person is going to work for us. So that's part of your personal brand. So you need to be out there monitoring what other people are saying about you, but also being very careful about what you say about yourself out there.
We know what's happening today. If I was looking to hire somebody, which Rochelle and I always are, we would put their name in Google. Mm-hmm. And I want to see what comes up. And if it's going to tell me everything I want to know. Now, if nothing comes up, well, that's a good thing. But it depends on what comes up.
But on social media, can't you do those pictures, let's say? Can't you put it hidden so only certain friends get it? Or are you saying avoid it completely?
I would say if you don't want your mother to see it, that don't put it up there. I think that everything lives online forever. It's the same thing with bad interviews. One of the things I say is if you're going to do an interview, call me first so that because a great interview can really go a long way, but a bad interview lives forever. And so you really want to be cautious. I mean, it is your personal brand. So I think protecting it, investing in it, and building in it. And one thing, look at BP. How long is it going to take for BP, if ever, to overcome? It's like oil in the water, literally. Right. It's going to take generations.
But they've done the right thing. They've immediately come out with it. They're working as best as they can to fulfill all the claims. And rather than like the whole Exxon Valdez, which is a total reversal, they're like, well, we'll just let the courts handle it. You know what I mean? It's a totally different situation, I think.
Well, it is to a certain point. You're right. That they did, as a group, behave much better than Exxon did. Mm-hmm. But their CEO was just removed because he botched the public relations side of it.
Exactly.
Which is what you were trying to say, Lorraine.
Right.
Had he been trained by you.
Right. Had he not said, I want to get my life back.
Yes.
But I do believe what you said is very important. Because I think when somebody asks you a question and you aren't used to a lot of media, which maybe he wasn't, you don't realize how they're going to take that. And that's you're going to tell us, what are they going to do with what I say, right?
Exactly.
And so you help us with what to say.
That's exactly right. And again, it goes back to who's your audience and what do they care about. They've now replaced Tony Hayward with an American.
That's exactly right.
Because that's the focus right now. It's what happens here in America with this spill and the cleanup that's going to determine, in a large part, how well BP does in the next, at least PR-wise. So it's really going to be a great case study for media relations, disaster response, crisis communications, all of that.
So let me go back to the book, Lorraine.
Yes.
You have questions. You have certain things in this book that can, in fact, help us.
Yes.
But if we don't want to do this alone, I could call you?
You could. Oh,
well,
yes, you absolutely could. I do this for a living, and I love to do it. It's my favorite thing.
You can tell.
The other thing is, if you're not in a position to hire me, and many people who are out of work don't have the resources to do it, I would recommend that you do it with some friends and colleagues. I did this myself years ago when I was struggling with my own elevator speech. It's like the shoes of the cobbler's children. And so I'm always working on it, but I got a group of friends and colleagues together. So you can do it. I also work with people via phone and internet and the web. It's now much easier to work with people in that way, and especially for the elevator speech. You don't necessarily have to see me in person. We can do a lot via long distance. I Skype and do webinars and all of that. So.
And your website is?
My website is mediaskillstraining.com. I have a blog.
Oh.
I tweet.
Oh.
And all of
You're
that.
really involved, aren't you?
I'm there.
Well, it's important that, again, you represent your brand.
Right.
Which means communication, right? So you better be communicating
exactly
in all forms, which is what you're doing.
I need to walk the talk.
Yes,
Right.
yeah, very important.
Right. And you do. And you definitely do. First of all, you're grassroots. You've come up through the industry. And so you share your knowledge with everybody because it's at your fingertips. It's not something that's really, brain surgery for everybody. And this is brain surgery. But you just take that out and you take the mystique out and hone in on what it is.
Well, being in the spotlight is not necessarily a natural act. And so people rightly will feel vulnerable because because people can see you and you can't hide. So, but there are some tricks and tools and strategies that I can share with people to help you stay calm, stay focused, and be effective. I mean, we all have something that we want to say, and so I can help you say it in a more clear, concise, and memorable way.
Wonderful. Well, again, we've been speaking this morning with Lorraine Howell, and her book is Give Your Elevator Speech a Lift, second edition, How to Craft Your Own 30-Second Commercial. And this book, I'm sure, will be online very soon, so they can purchase it, mediaskillstraining.com.
It's available as an ebook now on my website.
Wonderful.
The books are in shipment right now, and so I'll have them in hand. They'll be on Amazon very soon.
Wonderful. Well,
Can I ask, before we end this show, what do you think the biggest offensive thing is that people do? What do you think that the most offensive thing people do?
There's so many.
Well,
the people who drone on and
Yes.
they don't have no awareness of their audience or the people they're speaking to. They're so caught up in what they want to say, they forget about the other half of the conversation.
Me.
yeah, well, Lorraine said something a while ago, which I found very interesting to us. When you get a guest that talks in acronyms that are, if they're a doctor and they only talk doctor talk, it's so frustrating for a listener.
Yeah.
And I think that was so paramount for you to share that with us, because it's our responsibility to say, what do you mean by that?
Exactly.
And you're very good at it, like the PAR, P-A-R, the problem, the action, the result. You made that stick with us because you made it very real and very easy.
Thank you. And that's from years. I was a producer in television for 12 years in live interview format. So I saw hundreds of people coming through our studio doing the exact same thing, either confusing the audience or missing an opportunity to really communicate some important information. So that's how I developed this facility. And so it's fun. It's how I think, and it's easy. And so I can pass along that wisdom to people who really want to be better in the spotlight.
And she does,
you.
too.
Keep it simple. Keep it simple.
Thank you very much.
Thanks,
Again,
Lorraine.
that's mediaskillstraining.com. You can go there, find out everything about Lorraine Howell. We're going to take a quick break. This is Chat with Women. We'll be right back.